ordinance? No one? I close the council's comments and open it up to the public. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? If not, I close the public's comments, and I ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading and that the clerk be authorized to advertise it in legal newspapers as required by law. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Don, second by Mike. Clerk, please take the roll.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Will the clerk finally read resolution number 2022-219?
Resolution number 2022-219, approval of temporary construction and access easement and permanent water utility easement with Highlands Community Association, Inc. Whereas the Highlands Community Association, hereinafter referred to as HCA, is the owner of record of certain land situated in the Borough of Waldwick, hereinafter referred to as the Borough, and designated as tax block 73, Lot 1, or a portion thereof, and being property located on West Saddle River Road in the Borough of Waldwick, hereinafter referred to as property. And whereas the Borough currently has an easement on the property for the purposes of sewer and utility lines as evidenced by a deed of sewer and utility easement dated September 8, 2009, and recorded in the deed book 256, page 2003-31. And whereas the Borough requires a temporary construction and access easement on the property for the purpose of constructing water utility line improvements as well as other appurtenance facilities upon, across, under, and through said easement. And whereas the Borough has determined that the fair market value of the temporary construction and access easement is $10,600. And whereas the Borough requires a permanent water utility easement on the property for the purpose of installing, laying, constructing, reconstructing, operating, inspecting, repairing, and/or replacing a water utility line and necessary water utility appurtenances. And whereas the Borough has determined that the fair market value of the permanent water utility easement is $22,100. And whereas both easements are attached here too. And whereas the Borough has come to a tentative agreement with HCA for the temporary construction and access easement and permanent water utility easement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Municipal Council of the Borough of Waldwick hereby, 1, authorizes the Borough Attorney to make de minimis changes to the attached easements as deemed necessary, and 2, authorize the Mayor and Municipal Clerk to execute and finalize easements, and 3, authorize the CFO, Mayor, and Municipal Clerk to draw from the Municipal Treasury the sum of $32,700 payable to the Highlands Community Association for consideration of these two easements.
Do we have a motion and a second? Motion by Mr. Shalero, second by Mr. Schatz. On the question. Mr. Shalero.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and you know, at our last meeting, the Mayor and Council approved an offer to the Highlands Community Association based on data collected by our administrator, attorney, and others. And, you know, we made an offer, and we haven't received a response yet, but we still may before we can. You have an update.
Yes, I do have an update. Late this evening, I did hear from the president of HCA who said that I'd forwarded them the two easements that you have in front of you,
Okay.
the deed of water utility easement and the temporary construction and access easement. And he said that in their form, they're in agreement. They may have some legalese changes, but that wouldn't be an issue because with this resolution, the mayor and council give the borough attorney to make de minimis changes. So nothing of great substance would change in these easements, but if they have questions on specific language, the borough attorney will be authorized to make those changes.
But just to be clear, even though we have a quote tentative agreement, we went forward with the ordinance so as not to lose any time if the worst case scenario happens where it falls apart before we have pen to paper.
So in other words, but until they sign the agreements and everything's formalized, we can go forward no matter what. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Mayor, if I may, I think it's worth at least reading these, not in full, but these two easements, so the mayor and council and the public are aware of what's in them. And if you'll allow, I can go over the broad stroke commitments. So for the deed of water utility easement, this is the permanent easement. So the first is a construction easement. That'll just be for the term of the construction. This deed of water utility easement will be a permanent easement at that location. This grant is made for the sum of $22,100, which is what the fair market value as determined by our appraiser, the same value that was included in the ordinance that you just passed earlier tonight. This would allow us to install the permanent water utility line. It references the existing easement that we already have there, which is for a sewer line. It grants us the non-exclusive deed of water utility easement for the purposes of installing, laying, constructing, reconstructing, operating, inspecting, repairing, and replacing the 6-inch water utility line and necessary appurtenances. There is some coverage for liability. Indemnify and hold harmless agreement is included in here. It says that the borough will repair, restore any disturbances or damage to the property caused by the construction, installation, maintenance, or repair. And we agree to not reasonably interfere with the rights of the grantor, which is HCA. And it says that we will sound the utility line on a semi-annual basis to ensure that the line is in a state of good repair, which is activity that we do generally on our water system to detect the leaks before they become larger issues. So that is the permanent easement. The second is the temporary construction and access easement. This will just govern the time that we are in there actually constructing this water line through the park. This is made for consideration of $10,600. Again, the amount determined by the appraiser. The terms of this are, they're a little more detailed since it deals with construction activity. If you flip to page 2 there with number 1 starting, the first one says that anything we touch and displace, disturb, will be replaced more or less in kind by the end of the project. It says that we will complete this project within 4 weeks. We expect that it'll take 1 to 2 weeks, so we'll have more than enough time. It does say that we have the right to come back to do some final work that may not be able to be done in the first 4 weeks, just because of either the coordination of the project. There's some, we'll do the bulk of the work in 4 weeks, but some of the tie-ins, flushing, and cap and cut of the old lines have to be done at the very end of the project. And also some of the landscaping will be affected by the season, so we're not going to do that in December. So we can come back after that 4 weeks. Number 3 says that we will leave it in the same condition we found it. 4 is that we won't store any equipment that would block the access to the greater park area by HCA and its residents. 5, we'll do a pre-work site survey with photos. 6, that we will install a safety fence in the area that is being worked on. 7 is that we will endeavor to perform this work between November 24th and March 1st, which is in our timeline for construction. And 8, that the easement will terminate upon completion of the water utility line project. That is
Now,
all there.
during that time, the park will be shut down? Or they can still use it?
They'll be able to use all of the areas of the park that are not disturbed by this easement. So, they're definitely the large grass area, the swing sets, the basketball courts, and then, hopefully as we move through the area, they'll have access to the play equipment that's there as well.
And everything will be fenced off for the safety?
Yeah, there will be a safety fence around the areas where we're working, and that'll move. This is a long
Right.
easement, but it will, so that area will move as our equipment moves. We won't dig a trench for the length of it and then come back and lay the pipe in. We'll dig and lay and backfill as we move.
Now, the residents in that area will be notified by us or by their association?
It can be both. I don't believe that we would, or it's not typical that we would do a mailing to.
I mean, but we'll
to
know.
Post address.
We'll
but-
know about it.
But yeah, this is the type of information that we put out in our
Right.
community news. There may be some local postings, so yes, people in the
Okay.
area will know.
Anyone else? Clerk, please take the roll.
Ms. Sericola?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Schatz?
Yes.
Mr. Shalero?
Yes.
Okay, public comments. Anybody from the public would like to comment on anything? Kindly come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. If not, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mrs. Siricola, second by Mr. Ritchie. All those